Put that back. You want to speak in the microphone? Yeah. What's up, everyone? It's Jeremy Majors here with Majors Academy Dog Training. We are live for episode 153. And we are here to answer any and all dog questions. So anything you got about dogs or dog behavior, feel free to ask. And know that we are live on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook for about an hour. And you can catch all of these recorded on YouTube. On iTunes as well. What? What? Do you want to say something? Okay. Reggie has something to say. Say it. What? Say something. Say hello.
Hello.
Someone's going to ask a question, Reggie, and you got to answer it.
Puppy?
Yeah, there's a bunch of puppies. That's what we're talking about.
Puppy?
Mm-hmm. Who's that?
Puppy.
Who's that?
Puppy.
Is that Boomer? Mm-hmm.
It's Puppy.
Mm-hmm.
Puppy.
Yep.
Mom. Mama.
Mm-hmm.
Mama.
Okay, can I start my show?
Mama.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to start. All right. Let's see if we got any questions live.
Mama. Mama.
What?
Mama.
Hey, Sarah, how are you? Yes, please make some pack walks. All right. You ready to go?
Mama. Mama.
Yeah, that's Boomer. Okay. Kathy says, what are your thoughts on spraying a dog with water in a spray bottle to stop barking when he sees someone pass in the front of the house? I doubt it will work. Because the issue is deeper than just trying to find a solution that's kind of superficial. That solution would be superficial. If you want long-term results, because the dog could very well get used to the water and it not affect it. You want to address the deep-rooted issue and learn why the dog is barking. So why is he barking? The dog is barking because the dog does not feel safe in your house, safe enough to keep from barking when there's other things going on around your house. So that's what you have to address. And that includes behavior more than barking. Why is your dog constantly looking? That's the question that you have to ask yourself. Don't allow your dog to look, much less bark. Barking is the expression of get away from this place. I don't feel safe with you near this place, this territory. And so you'll have to address that. Don't let your dog look in the window in an obsessive manner. So anything that your dog is doing that seems out of their control, you should help them with that. So the spray bottle may or may not work. It's a short-term solution. All these tools are all short-term solutions. They're superficial. Again, the deep-rooted issue is how to get your dog to respect you enough to listen to you and make sure that they feel safe in your house. And in order to achieve that dialogue, you will have to stop giving the dog so much attention. So much attention to where the dog thinks that it can do whatever the heck it wants. And there's no reason for them not to. All right, those of you who just joined, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Please feel free to ask as many questions as you like. Yeah, do that. All right, let's see. May 21st. Okay. All right, let's move on. I have a Jack Russell, and when the dog goes home to my parents' house, the dog bites the other dog's legs. We've tried the collar, but it doesn't work that well. If we use the pet convincer, would it be a negative to the other dog? No, the pet convincer, it may provoke a response out of both dogs, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad one. Your dog is going to react to the pet convincer, but dogs quickly figure out what exactly they did to get the thing that they didn't like. Therefore, they may avoid it going forward. Pretty simple stuff. All right. Is it possible to have your dog not be in the kennel after training after the first month? I felt safer when he was out when I was not home or sleeping. I felt safer when he was out when I was not home or sleeping. When you're not home, that's fine. And when you're sleeping, that's fine. The crate is a good tool for dogs who are territorial. And so when you have guests over, it's a tool that will be used to help calm him, help make him feel safe through your guidance. So that's why we use it, but we'll talk about it. We'll definitely talk about it at length. All right. My dog is crated when I'm at work, and she barks like crazy when she hears me pull in. She jumps on me when I get home. What's the best way to stop the jumping? Act like a tree? No, because I'm pretty sure you've already acted like a tree and it hasn't worked. So for some dogs, acting like a tree just doesn't work. I mean, if jumping has been reinforced for so long, acting like a tree probably doesn't work big time. So the best way to get to for jumping to stop is to approach it in one of two ways. When you come home and the dog is barking, you must wait until the dog stops barking, or get the dog to stop barking by either saying quiet or ignoring the dog. Ignoring will take a lot longer because they're going to exhaust themselves. But you can also tell the dog to be quiet or lay down. And once the dog gives you a good 2 minutes of peace and quiet, then you can let the dog out, reinforcing that the barking, the pushy behavior gets you nothing what you want, and acting calm does. So that's just getting out of the crate. Once the dog gets out of the crate and the dog decides to go bananas, if the dog decides to go bananas, then you should grab his collar or put the dog on leash right away, and then get calm, create calmness right after you take the dog out of the crate, and then let the dog go outside. But once again, when you walk in that door, get the dog to be quiet, or wait for the dog to be quiet, and then let the dog out of the crate. Okay? All right. Thank you for your question. Feel free to ask another. All right, moving on. How can I get my dog to stop talking? I wish I could translate what he's saying, but it's so annoying. He won't shut up. What can I do to make him stop? I have a squirt bottle, but that only is temporary. Okay, so yeah, like I said, with the spray bottle or the squirt bottle, whatever you want to call it, it's a short-term, superficial way of addressing something that's a little bit more deeper than that. Your dog barks its head off because of one of two things. Your dog is barking because it wants your attention so bad and it knows that you will give in to it, or it's barking because it doesn't feel safe in your environment and it's extraterritorial. And so you really have to figure out why it's barking so that you can address that. Obviously, attention should be addressed by no attention that the dog wants. Don't give the dog what it wants while it's barking its head off, and it'll stop barking eventually. Territorial, you will have to show the dog that your space is a safe space. That'll get your dog to stop barking at each and every little movement, dog, person, squirrel, whatever, UPS man, mailman, whatever the dog sees. That'll get your dog to quiet down. So a lot of barking questions on this podcast. So yeah, again, the squirt bottle is superficial, man. Really dig deep and figure out why your dog is barking for long-term results. All right, thanks for your question. Okay, Heather says, how do you train cage aggression? Well, I make sure the dog is listening to me. Cage aggression is a direct result of not feeling safe in a enclosed area. Dog is like, I don't want you near me because I'm trapped in a box, and this is my way to get you to go away. This is my attempt to get you to go away. So that attempt, for one, cannot work for the dog. And then once the dog realizes that you're not going to go away, then you give the dog something to do, and then you can give the dog something it likes, like a treat. So what I'll do if a dog is coming at me in the crate, I'll stand there and wait until the dog is a peach once out. Yeah, all of them are a peach once out. It's about the trapped environment. It's about the cage. But still, you want to give guidance within that caged environment. You know what I'm saying? You want to give guidance within that boxed, insecure environment. So make the dog sit. Once you sit, then the pressure goes away. You go away, and maybe you can give the dog a treat too. But don't stand there with your pressure until the dog, don't go away until the dog gives you what it wants, a more productive way of getting you away. Because again, the dog wants you to go away, and the dog is saying "Rawr, rawr, 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 rawr," until you go away. If it works for the dog, then it's going to attempt to do it again and again. But I'll stand there until the dog, like, have your fit. That's fine. It's like a toddler rolling around, having a fit. And then once the dog realizes that it's not working, it's wasted energy, then you tell the dog to sit. Once the dog sits for a good 5 to 10 seconds, you give the dog a treat and you walk away. You give the dog what it wants. Like, I'm not here to just intimidate you at all. I'm here to tell you or show you that if you give me what I want, you can get what you want. You can get me away, and as a bonus, you can get a nice treat. But your behavior, your attempt to get me away by that aggressive stuff is not going to work. And in fact, that could get you really hurt. So that's what I'd focus on. What if they don't know any commands? Then you have to teach them commands outside of the crate. You have to teach them what sit means outside of the crate. But you don't even, and honestly, they don't have to know commands. Sitting is a submissive sort of behavior. Again, one that they will resort to if their attempts to get you away doesn't work. They will have other options. They will explore other options. So, is this a foster dog? Is this one of your dogs? Is it a rescue? Who is this? Who are you talking about? All right, those of you who just joined, this is Dog Behavior Q&A. Feel free to ask any questions you like about dog behavior, and know that your question will help people who are struggling with the same issues. And I don't even have to say, I don't mean struggling. I'm just in general. Just general dog questions. It can be anything from potty training to people aggression. So whatever you want. Okay. Let's move on. Okay. I have a dog who behaves well and listens great on e-collar, even off leash. We've been using it for about 5 months, but still can become reactive when it's not on. When it is on and she focuses on another dog or person, if I tap the button, she will ignore them. But if I don't have it on her, she will sometimes load and then react. So do one of two things. Either keep it on her longer, and then also add a layer of your adversive correction at the same time. And that would be your voice or leash correction. But the purpose of tools is to get the dog to respond to your verbal commands first. That's the end goal. The tools are there to get you there. And so you've got to make sure that you're layering your e-collar communication with your voice, so that when you don't have the e-collar on, then your voice is still something that the dog has learned to have faith in. So that's it. Add a layer. Okay, how do you handle intermittent pulling? He walks well sometimes, but other times pulls a lot when he wants to get at something or wants to go a different direction. He's a 3.5-month-old giant schnauzer. Well, he just doesn't quite understand what you want him to understand. Him choosing to pull or not is not up to him. It should be up to you whether he pulls or not. And once he understands that, there will be no pulling. But if he has the freedom to pull, then he will. So when he pulls, you have to make him learn that despite whatever's going on, you still shouldn't pull. So that's the goal that you want to get out of your dog. That's the thought process. You can't pull no matter what you see. And he's young yet, so give him a little bit of wiggle room there, and celebrate those small victories. But eventually, once you are convinced he knows what to do and is giving you the middle finger, then you can be a little bit more stern on the consistency of what you want from him. Okay? Thank you for your question, and I hope that answered it. If it didn't, ask another. I appreciate it. All right, a boarder at my practice, but the owner says she has to throw a treat in the back of the cage so she can get close to the door. Yeah, that's bull crap. To me, that's it's not how you handle it. You give the dog a job to do, and the dog must do it. But as a result of the dog listening to you, the dog starts to trust you. And I've got a video on it. I got a video on how to handle the crate aggression. I have a couple of rules that I enforce in the crate, which can eliminate cage aggression, which is no standing up in the crate, right? Especially if there's any cage aggression. No stand. If there's no cage aggression, I don't care what you do in the crate except for bark. But for a cage aggressive dog, here's the rules: no standing up, no spinning, no pacing. Definitely no nosing of the front of the crate, and keep the dog in the back of the crate too. So any signs of anxiety, right? The initial signs that you see anxiety provoking, you want to, in a way, step in, advocate for the dog, and say, sit down, or lay down, or no, or quiet. Addressing those little things, addressing those little behaviors before it gets to the barking, the biting at the hand, and whatnot. So actually, I did just post a video of a dog recently that I just met for the first day. He was going at me in the crate, and I stood there and let him have at it. Then I put him in a sit. I opened the crate, made sure he stayed in a sit, opened the crate fully, and was able to put a leash on him. So you may want to check that video out. But if that doesn't work, just contact me. We'll get it figured out. All right, Sarah says, how do you handle that pulling in a bigger dog? Mowgli's anxiety is so bad, I can't get him to do anything on walks when distracted, but pull. Are you using a prong collar? Let me know. Yeah, the cage aggression video is on YouTube and my Instagram. What vet do you work at? All right, my dog is very reactive. Belgian Mal, GSD mix, barks, lunges, even bit neighbor's dog. Her crate faces the outside window. Is that a bad idea? Yes. Now that we are home, she paces between the windows, literally crazy. We got a shock collar, but I don't think we know how to use it. Yeah. I would seek a professional on that, my friend. There's a lot of things you'll have to learn. You have a whole lot of dog on your hands. So you may want to DM me. I can give you some more guidance, but I tell you right away, what I would do with that dog is teach the dog the place command. And that means have a bed in your living room, and your dog must create a safe space for your dog in your house, despite what's going on. So I'd put the dog in on the bed, and that would be that. You may want to, for now, put the leash on the dog while it's in your home, because again, it's your job to make your dog feel safe in your home, and he shouldn't be barking when you're home for long periods of time. There's a lot to learn about that, but you got a whole lot of dog if you got a Belgian Malinois. Can dogs see colors? If yes, what colors can they see? I have no idea. I have no idea. Sorry, man. Okay, moving on. Oh, what about a dog that has worked through reactivity but still gets light hackles? Do you correct those hackles? Depends. I mean, that's a tough question. Hackles are not necessarily concrete evidence of one certain emotion. You know what I mean? Hackles can mean, hackles can mean in general a certain emotion. I would agree with that. But at what level is that emotion? Is that emotion? I would say best bet is to be there for the dog, but figure out at what level you need to be there for the dog. Is just a voice correction good? Or is just a light leash correction good? Or is a light e-collar correction good? You want to, on one hand, know, it's hard to answer that. But on one hand, you want to know the dog's actual threshold and or, know the dog. And so I'd have to get to know the dog really well to be able to tell you exactly what to do. But excuse me, because I can't say that it means one thing. So you may or may not have to be there for the dog at all. It just depends on the dog, So great question though. And feel free to ask another. Whitney says, when a dog is protective, when you hug other people, what can you do to allow them to learn it's okay? Do I have him next to me or in a down? I would say away from you is the best bet. Dogs get possessive. They get a little jealous. And so I'd say go ahead and put them on your bed away from you, and then just kind of watch them out of the corner of your eye, and then reinforce down or stay if they would decide to, get nervous or anxious or whatever it may be. But that's what I would do. Starting to feel normal around these parts, Green Bay. All right, low-level e-collar stem proceeds with no, seems to work. I know this dog very well. I fostered him for a year. There you go. Whatever works, and I would say always work to see if less of what you're doing works. But yeah, whatever works, Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, I think I got everybody's question on here. Okay. My pit bull still zones in when her collar isn't on. It's pretty intimidating trying to get her attention back in that moment. So keep the e-collar on. Keep the e-collar on for about another month. And then add a layer, your leash correction and your voice. Okay, guys, but here's the deal too. Here's the bigger problem. If you're still having problems in one area, it's not even that area that may be causing the problem. It also may be what you're doing when there is no potential for a problem, which means when you are at home alone with your dog, and it's very convenient to give the dog what it wants, not thinking about how it affects that one area that you're still struggling with, that's when that could be a cause of why your dog is still struggling in that area. If you're allowing things to happen on your own dog's account because it's not what you don't think is directly related. So how you and your dog are in the house can affect how your dog is in the outside world, because there's two different things. You're not consistent, or you're not being consistent at all in the house, but yet you're trying to be consistent in one area outside when the dog sees other dogs or people. You will have a much easier time if you can think on a broad scale. So make the dog listen to you much better when it's very convenient for you guys to be affectionate to the dog, give the dog treats, loving, and all that stuff. That's when you can help establish a good dialogue that will directly affect what's going on in the outside world. So it's not necessarily about the dog being dog aggressive when it sees another dog on walks. That's only part of the solution, because most of the dogs are doing behavior because they think they can, and it's not because they think they have to. If you have a dog who is totally in fear, then they're not necessarily acting like a brat inside the home. But if your dog is acting like a brat inside the home and then acting out when it sees other dogs, people, then address the brattiness inside the home to see a big improvement about people and other dogs. Promise you that'll happen. How often do you do these Q&As? What times? I love this. 8 p.m. every Thursday, Central Standard Time, and I really appreciate that. You and I got off to a rocky start, but I appreciate you being here. And I did report that trainer, but I guess things are slow moving due to the coronavirus. Okay, let's see what we got. 10-month giant male, constantly mounting other dogs. Any help? Thanks. Oh, that dog is 10 months. Oh, he's just coming into his own now. Yeah, he's starting to say, I'm starting to feel it. 10 months, they have a spike in testosterone. And, wow, it is annoying. It is obnoxious. It can start fights. You got to give a little bit of wiggle room for the dog, but also you have to, teach the dog that it's not okay to hump. So communicate with the dog however you see fit and however is fair to the dog to get the dog to stop humping. It's hey, I mean, listen, I'm sympathetic to it. Dogs have needs too, so you'll just have to, one, deal with it, and also on the other hand, don't let your dog be too obnoxious about humping that poor little dog that it wants to hump. 10 months, like I said, they get a big spike of testosterone, and when they see something, it could, you know what I'm trying to say. But thank you for your question, and feel free to ask another. You guys aren't limited to one question. Feel free to ask as many questions as you like. I know you probably got more than one issue with your dog. Don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed. Everybody else is probably on the same page. Feel free to ask as many questions as you like, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. All right, moving on. Hi, Amy. How are you? All right. Would you use a prong collar when training pit bull? Lady having hard time handling it during training session. Yeah, I would. Yep. Prong collar is just fine. Great. I am glad he's reported, but the trainer he has working for him doesn't seem doesn't see anything wrong, and his wife might as well work for PETA. She says how he hates trains so much, but always defends him. Yeah, that's crazy. All right, Whitney says, sometimes when I tell my dog to sit, he took something he shouldn't and drops it. He chooses to eat the whole thing. Anything I can do? Yeah. You can teach your dog the out command, or drop it or leave it, whatever you want. Or when you are handling things, say, for example, you're in the kitchen. If you're handling things the dog shouldn't go after, socks, washcloths. Yeah, the dog should be on its bed so that it can't get to it. You know, I have a rule. I don't allow my dogs in the kitchen. So they don't have the opportunity to get into that, sort of stuff. But that can easily be solved if you tell your dog to go lay down, and they, in fact, go lay down. All right. Thanks for your question. Feel free to ask another. All right. Moving on. All right. So, hey, my dog seems to have responded negatively to Adapt till she was found nursing her pups on the street and did guard them. When we started Adapt till, she developed some sort of anxiety in her crate and escaped. Have you ever heard of negative responses with use of Adapt till? I don't know what Adapt till is. Is that like an anti-anxiety medication? I don't know what that is. Anybody else who's ever heard of Adapt till, if you guys have any experience with it, feel free to comment, but I don't know what that is. All right, Mandy says, our Pit tends to be protective over some of his toys, and he gets very, very growly and agitated when our other dogs or people go near him, especially while he's in his kennel. Any advice? Yeah, for one, so you can do this a couple of ways. You can take the stuff away in his kennel. Don't give him any toys or anything in his kennel, and then see if he's still growling. Or you can keep the stuff in your kennel and correct him for growling and agitated when dogs or people come by. You should have it to where your dog is in the kennel with toys, food, bones, doesn't matter, and the dog should be quiet and peaceful in that crate. And again, it's your job to show your dog that where you put the dog in your environment is safe. No matter who's going around, no matter who's here or what's going on, it is your job as the dog's parent to show that your environment that you put him in is not one of which you have to get agitated or growly or nervous or barky or whatever it may be. So you have to tell the dog, you have to show the dog that your space is safe. It's just like a parent with a kid. You want your kid to think that your home is a safe space, nothing to be nervous about. And so same thing with your dog. Get your dog to realize that I can have people in here, and if I invite them in, we're good. If I don't invite them in, I don't care how you act. But if I invite people in, we're good. And if any dogs are around, we're also good. All right. I hope that makes sense. That's sort of the gut. That's sort of the long-term solution. All right. My dog growls at my kid if they try to pet him when he has a bone. I correct the child, as I'm sure the animal is behaving instinctively, but I worry my boys have crazy energy. How do I teach the dog that he's not meaning any harm? So you can correct the dog for growling at your children with the bone, because that is a behavior they can learn to respect. And so you can also teach your children to be more respectful of the dog when the dog has the bone. But my dog is not growling at my kids. I don't care what it has. Okay, because growling leads to other things. Don't let your dog think it's okay to do that. Instinctively or not, they can learn to avoid it. I would rather have my dog walk away from that bone than decide to get my child to walk away via bite. So get your dog to realize that it's not okay to do that. The other thing you can do is a secondary short-term solution would be to pick the dog's bone up and don't let the dog have the bone around kids. If you want your dog to have a bone, put the dog in a kennel or put the dog outside and allow the dog to enjoy its bone on its own away from the kids. All right. Appreciate that question. When you say correct the dog, can you give me an example of techniques you use? Yeah, I'll say, no, that's a correction. But sometimes that just doesn't work. Your voice is just not enough. So you'll have to add a tool. The three main tools that I use are a doggy don't, a prong collar, or an electric collar. And then I add that with the word no, or stop, or quiet, or down, whatever it may be. Make sure you're always using your voice with any adversive tool that you use. But if your dog responds to no, no need for tools. Patrick says, what is the proper / safe way to break up a dog fight? There is no proper way. There's no safe way. I mean, you got dogs going like this. Like, you know, it's not the most, it's tough. But I'll give you some tips to the best of my ability. They are not going to keep you 100% safe, but it'll be more safe than the alternative. Most people want to go ahead and grab the dog by the collar or get right in there with the mouth and the, no, don't do that. You're asking to get bit then. So what you want to figure out, if you can, is who the aggressor is. There's usually one dog saying, I want to get after you. I'm getting after you, man. I don't like you. You got on my nerves. I'm coming after you. There's usually one dog thinking that way. And then the other dog's like, dude, get away from me, man. I'm just defending myself. I'm here. I'm just defending myself. Get away from me. So that's not the dog you want to grab. The dog that you want to grab is the aggressor. The dog who is saying, I'm coming after you, man. Damn. I want the number one spot. I don't want you near my owner. I don't want you near my bone. I don't want you near my food. Things like that. So the aggressor is the dog that you want to get a handle on, because sometimes the dog that is just defending themselves will just stop. Once you get the dog that is being the aggressor away. Sometimes, not all the time. Sometimes the dog that's defending himself said, man, you got me good on my ear. I'm coming back at you. You know? So, but bottom line, if you can, know who the aggressor is or know who's winning. Just recognize who's more on top, going forward and trying to cause more damage. Grab that dog. And I would maybe grab the dog by the back feet, but be careful. The dog may turn around and try and go after your hand. Be careful. Again, there's really no solid, concrete way of safely breaking up a dog fight. It's nasty. It's ugly. There's animosity sometimes. There's, you know. So if you can get a leash around the dog's back half as sort of like a noose or a slip lead around the aggressor's back half, and then you can pull the dog away, you know, that'd be a way. There's air horns that can do it. There's doggy don't. Doggy don't is a sound device. There's hoses. You know, there's people breaking up dog fights with water hose. So there's a lot of things. A lot of different ways. Is this fight between dogs in your house or at a dog park? Let me know, man. All right, Whitney says, what do you do if they do gravel? Just tell them now. And if they listen, leave it at that. Yeah, if they're growling, if that's what you're trying to say, then just tell them no. And if they stop, then just leave it at that. Yeah, I do that. All right. All right, Carrie says, I use the educator e-collar for my 4-year-old dog and want to get another e-collar for my 1-year-old dog, but she is scared and timid. She hates to vibrate. Do you recommend another type of collar for a dog who's timid and shy? No, I'd use the educator. The problem is, what most people don't understand is that when you're using that e-collar, especially from the any e-collar that has a nice variety of levels, the vibration can be too much for the timid, shy dog. And you don't want to use that as the go-to. The stimulation can be less dramatic to a timid and shy dog. So I tell my clients it's kind of pointless to use the vibration, especially if they have a dog who reacts really negatively to the vibration. The vibration on an e-collar from e-collar technologies, the e-collar 301 is the mini educator 301 is you know, the vibration I would say is equivalent to a level 15. So as far as how it affects dogs, but again, some dogs really don't handle the vibration very well. And the vibration is also superficial because you can't fluctuate between levels of vibration. You know what I'm saying? It's just one level. And so that kind of goes against how my training philosophy is in the first place. You want to be able to whisper to your dog. That's what you want to do the majority of the time when communicating with your dog. You may have to up the ante and yell sometimes, but that should be not all the time. Every now and then. Yes, definitely try the stimulation. I promise you. The dog won't feel a level 2, 4, 6, 8. You know, the dog won't feel any of that. So make sure the e-collar is nice and snug, is properly fitted, and it has the right length of prongs to get a good connection. All right. Thank you for your question. Great question. Two German Shepherd sisters. Yeah, so you ought to know who's trying to be the the asshole. You ought to know who's trying to be the dominant one. But Shepherd sisters, if they're actually litter mates, boy, litter mates can be hell to each other. Oh, they can give each other hell. They just know each other so much, so well. It's like literally two human sisters or brothers who just fight all the time. But take that advice that I was telling you about, Get the one who's trying to be a dominant one, and save the one who's just trying to defend herself. All right. Whitney says, how do you teach your dog how to swim? He used to swim in a huge puddle when he was little, but then we would not walk into even the beach water. What can I do to get him comfortable with when he loves baths? He does love baths. But my water was a little too cold for him the other day. So I like to either one, have a safety vest, take him to a pool, and have one of those, they got dog, like, floating vests now. You know what I'm saying? And then I like to, or, if you don't have get one of those, then you can just be there with the dog, holding the dog up, and then kind of just getting the dog comfortable, keeping the sessions short, but helping the dog realize that this feels really good. You know what I mean? Especially during a hot day. So you may want to wait for a hot day, but they have, like I said, they have water vests for dogs that they'll just float. So there's nothing to panic about. And the point is to get the dog over the panic, to be able to get the dog to relax and realize that this is kind of cool, fun, and relaxing. All right. Our pit tends to be protective over some. Oh, I already answered that. During bedtime, there are times when our dog will growl if you touch or bother him. Yet sometimes he's fine. Any idea why he'd behave that way? Yeah, some dogs do that. You know, some dogs are allowed to be moody. You know, or choose when they want to be touched or not. And I would sort of combat that. Like, I would not allow my dog to be able to be picky about when I'll give him affection. I'm going to give you affection when I want to, and you have to deal with it or like it. But if they are being pretentious over your affection, that may mean you are giving way too much affection. So evaluate that. Your dog should be thankful for you giving them what they like. And if they're growling when you are giving them what they like, then that may be a sign of you giving them way too much of what they like. It's like a spoiled child getting way too much candy. It's not going to really appreciate it if it gets candy every day. All right, great question. All right, Crystal says, I have 3 submissive pitties and just rescued another female. She's trying to pull dominance and is causing fights. How do I correct this? She's getting dominant when my dog's energy is too high. So keep your dog's energy low. Many fights will stop, won't even start if you can control the energy. The energy should be low. And if you have to work with one dog at a time to get the dogs calm when said energy is high, then you have to do so. When you come home from somewhere, or when you give them what they want, their energy should be not high. When they're let outside, get them calm. When you come home, make sure they're calm. When you pet them, make sure you can pet one dog at a time. And when they get snarky or growly or jealous or possessive, then you must give your dog a correction. You must punish your dog for acting like that. You're very welcome. You must give your dog a consequence. Be in control of all dogs. If you have that many dogs, you may want to kennel dogs too. So that you can work with them one at a time and can easily control the energy more efficiently. You're very welcome. Thank you for your question. Thank you. All right, guys. I mean, I think I ran out of questions. If you got any last questions, feel free to ask them now. We had some really good, solid questions. All right. Well, then I'm going to get out of here. It's 8:56. You guys give me a thumbs up. Give me a heart. Give me a like. Give me a whatever. I really appreciate all the questions. Thank you for asking them. They're going to help out people who come across this video and ask and have the same questions. So I appreciate that. See you next time. 1, 2, 3.